So here we are, old friend. You said we'd live forever. I guess forever's not such a long time after all. You were always right there with me. Well, until one day, you weren't. I'm not going to pretend that what we had was perfect. There were many times where, if we're being honest, you would run out on me, and I resented that. But your vision astounded me. The way you saw things in so much detail, your absolute clarity at times, it was beautiful. Sometimes you were a little awkward, hard to handle, quirky, I suppose. I know sometimes people accuse you of being cheap, but that was one of the qualities I admired the most. And when I look back on all the time we spent together, I can't help but think of all the little moments. We captured something special. You could say it was magic. I suppose that's what makes saying goodbye so hard. And I never thought you would die on me. I was naive to think you're invincible. But at the end of the day, despite everything we've been through, you're still just a Blackmagic cinema camera. Goodbye, old friend. Rest well, and just know that while you never actually fit in my pocket, I've kept a pocket for you in my heart. Also, I did just replace you with a red Komodo. So, there's that.
Previously on The Savage Filmmaker.
Quality control and reliability are two areas that Blackmagic must absolutely address if they want shooters to truly trust their products.
A few months later.
It's true what they say, only the good die young. The good, and anything made by Blackmagic. I wanted to look back and talk about my experience using the 6K Pro. It has been my workhorse camera for a range of different content for 10 months. I want to talk about the things, both good and bad, that I've discovered while using it over that time, and also what happened to it. Hello everyone, my name is Guy Pigden. I am the Savage Filmmaker. I make feature films, web series and shorts, and I'm here to give tips and advice to indie filmmakers about how to make those things. To me, the Pocket 6K Pro is the quintessential indie filmmaker's camera of 2021. An affordable cinema camera that produces beautiful images in a very filmmaker-friendly package. I have already done an in-depth review of the Pocket 6K Pro, which you can watch here, and another video where I explain why I chose it to replace my Canon C200 here. And those videos are a great primer to this one if you want to really see why I thought the 6K Pro was so good. First, the good. You cannot beat the image quality coming out of this camera for the price. In fact, you could argue the image quality is on par with, or even better than, most cameras coming in at double or triple its price. Canon C70 and Sony a7S III, I'm kind of looking at you. But I think more than just the image quality, it's important to note just how easy it is to get a good image out of this camera. This camera is forgiving. It works well when you have limited lighting. It gives you something really pleasing without requiring expensive lighting setups. The Gen 5 color science is gorgeous, and while you may not think of this as a run and gun camera, it really works for that type of setup. It's refreshing to me that Blackmagic have in some ways compromised the sales of their higher end cameras such as the Ursa Mini G2 and the Ursa 12K, because the Pocket 6K is just so damn good. This is the opposite of what companies like Canon do, and you have to appreciate Blackmagic's ongoing dedication to delivering the most bang for the buck, even if it means they might cannibalize their own cameras in the process. I've also found the 6K Pro to be the ultimate interview camera because of this. You have great resolution to punch in if need be, your image doesn't require complicated lighting setups, the Pocket 6K's B-RAW just renders colors so nicely and gives you latitude to make adjustments in post. And I do have to point out B-RAW as one of Blackmagic's crowning achievements with this camera. I'm not really interested in the arguments about whether this is true RAW or not. I'm just interested in how easy it is to work with and the quality it delivers. And boy, it delivers. 2021 for me has been the year of working with RAW codecs. As I was coming previously from compressed 1080 HD worlds and the Canon's older versions of C-Log, I've edited a considerable amount of footage using Canon RAW Lite, Blackmagic's B-RAW, and Red's Red Code RAW. And I think overall B-RAW is the best. Canon RAW Lite is amazing, but you really have to watch out for noise in your blacks. The file sizes are absolutely huge, and it still runs very slowly in most editing software. Red Code RAW might offer the best image quality of the three, but it's also huge, and still tends to run a little slowly on my iMac. It also takes more finessing on set to correctly expose to, which leads to longer setup times and less flexibility. B-RAW, on the other hand, manages to balance manageable file sizes with very easy post-production workflows. It can run smoothly on most computers and cuts out the need for proxies. It also makes it cheaper to film on compared to the others too when you're thinking about the hard drive space required for larger projects. And trust me, hard drive space is going to become a big cost when you graduate to RAW workflows. I also have to give a shout out to the internal ND filters. Internal NDs are an absolute lifesaver when you're in a hurry. You don't need to worry about matte boxes. When you want to control the light, but you don't have control over the lights, the NDs just take away all your headaches. You can use them to create more depth of field, and they are just generally the most sensible, useful, and practical thing you can have as part of any camera system. When looking at the original Pocket 6K versus the Pocket 6K Pro, I'd happily pay the difference in cost just for this feature alone. The new super bright LCD screen and Blackmagic's touchscreen interface is second to none. They have absolutely nailed their UI design. It is better than any other camera on the market. You can change your settings quicker, you can understand your camera faster because of their touchscreen controls, and whenever I switch to any other camera system, whether that's Red, Sony, or Canon, they all feel slow and unintuitive by comparison. It reminds me of just how far ahead of the game Blackmagic really are in this area. It's also been great to see some of their firmware updates continuing to improve this UI, such as finally being able to measure false color easily. I also have to give honorable mention to the preamps on the 6K Pro. You can definitely record good quality sound on these, and comparing them to say the Red Komodos, the Pocket 6K Pro will record much cleaner audio. So when I look at this camera in terms of the image it produces, it's just insane to think that you can get this type of quality from a camera under $3,000. Blackmagic are disruptors. They have changed the game, and they have forced the larger camera companies to reassess their pricing strategies, which in turn provides us filmmakers more lower priced, higher spec camera options. And when that happens, we all win. Blackmagic constantly tries to give us the most for the least, and you have to respect that. Now let's talk about some of the cons I've noticed working with this camera for so long. First, let's address the biggest problem. Blackmagic replaced a crappy battery solution on the original Pocket 6K with a very slightly less crappy battery solution on the 6K Pro. The new Sony MPF batteries give you 10 to 15 minutes more battery life, but any cinema camera that provides you less than an hour of usable battery life is not really working within the framework of what we all expect of a cinema camera. This solution sucks, and you'll need to find a way around it for any type of professional shoot. The shape of the camera is also just weird. This is a cinema camera, and yet it's got a DSLR body, and not a really good DSLR body. With its large nose to accommodate the sensor, then you add the longer lens to that, like a Sigma 18-35, and it just doesn't feel very good in the hand. If you're using this without any type of build out, you're going to be getting some pretty shaky looking shots. There's no doubt its construction does feel decidedly cheap. Now, if you're going to cut corners, I'd prefer corners were cut with the camera body rather than the camera image, which is the case here. But it would be great to have the best of both worlds. The fact that it only has a 1/4-20 thread on the top of the camera also means it's quite difficult to add accessories to if you want to keep your rig stripped down and minimal. Also, something that is not often mentioned is the spacing of the ports on the side of the camera. When you have a lot of things plugged in, it's really hard to manage all those cables, and plugging and unplugging anything becomes a real chore. This port layout is just not very well designed, much like the overall body itself. I know I also just praised the bright LCD screen, and it's great in the middle of the day, but in my experience I do think that that brightness can be very misleading. Even if you have the brightness dialed way down, it always appears to be showing you a brighter image than what you are really capturing. Yes, you can verify your exposure with the false color tools, but when you're in a rush, it can be easy to underexpose due to that bright screen. It's not really providing you a truly accurate image of what you're capturing, and that's a problem. Something else that I've noticed through using the camera is just how bad the rolling shutter or jello effect is on the 6K Pro, to the point where it will limit the way in which you film. If you move this camera quickly, you are going to see jello. I can see this even when I'm just walking handheld behind someone. What does this mean for most people? Well, if you're someone who likes to film highly kinetic, fast-paced action, this camera would be completely unusable. The rolling shutter is that bad. How that will affect you will depend on your shooting style, but it is potentially a severe limitation that I really never expected to encounter when making my initial purchase. And now we get to the biggest con of the Pocket 6K Pro. Mine died. So there I was, mid-shoot, having shot several hours of interviews with my Pocket 6K Pro, just about to pack down to our next location, when I decided I should get one last cutaway. I turned my Pocket 6K Pro back on, but it did not turn back on. Confused, I checked the battery. It's still 2/3 full. Nothing. The camera still does not turn on. That gnawing, creeping dread starts to build in the pit of my stomach. Perhaps a different battery solution is needed, I say to myself as I swap from V-mounts to Sony internal batteries. Still, nothing. I try and plug it in using the AC power, but the camera remains unresponsive. As the precious minutes tick by and a bead of sweat trickles down my forehead, I look sheepishly at my client. They return my panic-stricken stare, their expression reminiscent of the look my first girlfriend once gave me. Confused and disappointed by all my frantic and completely ineffective fumbling, it was at that moment that I realized my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro was dead. D-E-D.
He may be dead.
He maybe did what?
He may be dead.
Yeah, I know, but what did he maybe do?
He may be dead.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. What did he maybe do?
And in terms of an update to that story, at the time of recording, it's still with Blackmagic being looked at. They can't seem to find any issue with it. It's under warranty, so I'm sure it will be fixed or replaced, but I feel like at this stage, it's way too new to be having any type of issues. Or to quote Drake, it was really too young to be feeling this old. I can't help but be reminded of something I said in my initial review of the Pocket 6K Pro. If you buy a Blackmagic camera, you make a deal with the devil. Buy a new Blackmagic design camera and you make a deal with the devil. Will you get the most powerful, best value camera on the market? Or will you get a dud version that is riddled with problems and needs to be sent back?
See, I did say that.
Very clever.
For 9 months, I got that awesome camera image for the best price on the market. But at the end of the day, you can't put a price on reliability. Now this is only my experience using Blackmagic cameras, but of the 4 that I have either owned or used extensively, only one has not broken in some way. My first Pocket 4K's audio would cut in and out, and it would occasionally just turn off for no reason. This is what led to me initially selling it. The Ursa Mini G1 we used to film my latest short film had a major dead pixel issue, and the whole sensor had to be replaced. That same camera now has a problem with its preamps that mean you can't record audio directly to it, and the fold-out LCD screen has become loose. My Pocket 6K Pro died a couple of weeks ago. Only the new Pocket 4K, which I bought a few short months ago as a B-cam, has not given me any problems. That's a 75% failure rate, so by any standards, it's not a good track record. So after all of this, how do I feel about Blackmagic and the Pocket 6K Pro? Well, I do think they still offer the best picture for the price, in spite of my bad experience. As an affordable camera that punches way above its weight, it's still the best thing on the market. It does have its shortcomings, but all of them are made up for when you consider the image you are capable of getting out of this camera. But this all comes with a caveat, and an obvious sacrifice in reliability. I would absolutely make sure you extend your warranty if possible, and know that you might need some type of backup in your camera bag. To be clear, while I have purchased a Komodo, the reasons for doing so had nothing to do with my Pocket 6K Pro breaking or me being unhappy with it up until that point. And I'll still be continuing to use the 6K Pro when it returns from servicing for most of my shoots. I'm filming this video on the slightly faulty Ursa Mini G1. I am deep in the cult of Blackmagic.
Remove your clothes.
So I say this with all due respect. Grant Petty, can we please make some cameras that don't break so easily? If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. And if you'd like to support me, consider watching my latest feature film, Older, which was not filmed on a Blackmagic camera. But my web series, Imi the Vegan, was filmed on the Ursa Mini Pro G1, and they're both available for free on Amazon Prime. Links in the description. If you've had a bad camera experience, Blackmagic or otherwise, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. As always, I am the Savage Filmmaker, and I'll see you when I see you.